Hi, I'm Jasmine Mas, and I'm the author of Blood of Hercules. And we're going to play myth or mytho. Seriously. Hades and Persephone were madly in love with each other. So I would say that this is from Greek mythology. When it comes to Hades and Persephone, I've read a lot of Greek mythology retellings of them, and I honestly really love them. I think they're like the OG enemies to lovers. But I didn't want to do that classic retelling it again because I've read so many great ones of it. So in this book, I imagined if they had such a great love story, without spoiling it, they're parents in the book. So I think it makes it fun making them parents, because if they're such an amazing love story, if they had children, I thought it was fun to imagine what they would be like as parents. And like, would Hades be a good dad? Would Persephone be a good mom? And it's really fun to play around with their parenting styles. The myth of the creation of the gods and how the great Alexandria library is destroyed. I'd say this is a combination. I think that especially the Library of Alexandria, there is myth out there that, I mean, it is fact that it did burn to the ground. I think there's a lot of historical conspiracy theories about why it burned. So I took that and twisted it and did my own thing and made it that they purposely burned it to hide the information. But I like to believe that that could have actually happened. And how the gods were created in my story is definitely not exactly the same as Greek mythology. So I made that part up. So a little bit of both. The Spartan War Academy existed. Once again, I'd say this is a twist. I don't think this actual Spartan War Academy that I created existed. However, I took actual stuff. I was a classics major when we studied Sparta and the training and how they segregated and separated men at a young age, and they trained for war really like aggressively. It was a very like war-centered society. So I took ideas from that and I made it into my own thing. The tale of immortal Spartans living alongside their pets and mythical creatures. So I definitely made this up myself completely. I just really like the idea of little creatures and animals. Though I guess I did learn at some point, I remember when we learned about like Greek city-states, that there was a lot of wild dogs that roamed, and that was a real, like a big, I don't know if it's a problem, it was just they had a lot of dogs in the cities. So maybe I was a little inspired by that, but the creatures was definitely more my thing. Though there is a lot of mythological creatures in myths, but I kind of just like twisted them a lot. The story of the creation of the Olympians and the Chthonians and the events that followed the Great War. I came up with chthonic was a constant theme when I was doing classical studies. It represented in mythology, like it was symbolic with death, with snakes, and there was all this like things with the underworld, like Hades, things associated with the underworld in general was chthonic. And I always thought that was interesting because we only in modern times hear a lot about like the Olympian, the big gods. So I kind of took that idea and ran with it. And that's why I tried to separate. For me, I created like a separated society where within the Parthenon of Olympian gods, the chthonics were actually part of that. Like the ones I thought were kind of the coolest, but the ones associated with death in my mind are maybe like more powerful. So that's kind of how I twisted it. The depths, the high security prison. I feel like the underworld is in the Greek mythology, like Hades runs it. So obviously, and then like I said before with chthonics, the underworld is a thing associated with the afterlife and death. And I kind of ran with that and made it more of the high security prison. Augustus, Chiron, Patro, Achilles, and Helen were family and are friends and possessed powers. So yeah, I completely made this all up myself. I had like the cast of characters from Greek mythology, and I separated them into groups when I did chthonics versus Olympians. And then I tried to think of a world like who would know who, and then tried to make them all like family dynamics and stuff. So that was just me making it all up, thinking it'd be cool if they were all friends.